Task Force members, my name is Dhruvi. I'm a junior at Glenelg High School, president of my class student government, and a candidate for Howard County Student Member of the Board. Today I am speaking with you to urge you in the strongest terms to recommend the continued absence of school resource officers from Howard County schools. SROs subject Black and Brown students to racial profiling from a young age and perpetuate the school-to-prison pipeline, affecting students' ability to learn in a safe and comforting environment at school. Let's talk specifics. In Howard County during the 2019 to 2020 school year, even with the pandemic that closed schools for months, 28 students were arrested, and 25 out of 28 of these arrests were made by SROs. 75% of students arrested were Black, even though Black students made up only 24.2% of the school system's population that school year, clearly showing the disparate impact of racial profiling. Some proponents of SROs will point out to you that only 21% of these students were physically brought into custody, while 79% of these arrests were paper arrests. My first response to that is that 21% is still too high. And second, let's not underestimate the consequences of a paper arrest. Paper arrests such as citations and referrals can be just as damaging to students as physical arrests, because paper arrests can still require students to go through the juvenile system and facilitate the school-to-prison pipeline. According to a 2015 study at MIT, minors charged with a crime as a child are more likely to reoffend in the future. This is especially an issue as SROs can insist on law enforcement keeping an eye on students, subjecting them to further criminalization. Moreover, although some state that SROs build positive relationships with students, according to the 2015 Memorandum of Understanding between HCPSS and the Howard County Police Department, the SRO is first and foremost a sworn police officer whose primary duty is enforcement of the law, and SROs will be required to enforce the law even with a student they have an existing relationship with. The September 2020 report to the Howard County Board of Education stated that one role of SROs is to, quote, bridge the gap between youth and law enforcement. I'm shocked that anyone thinks that's a gap that needs to be bridged. A 2010 meta-analysis of 178 studies assessing the efficacy of different school disciplinary measures found that using police to handle school disorder, quote, does not reduce the occurrence of problem behavior in schools. Having SROs on location makes them more likely to respond to smaller offenses that they are not needed for, such as disorderly conduct and drug possession. Counseling and restorative justice are equitable practices that focus on reforming student behavior and building connections, positive changes. Counselors and staff trained in de-escalation can be utilized to stage interventions with students possessing drugs or in cases of disorderly conduct. Unarmed security assistants without the power to arrest can break up any violent encounters between students. Restorative justice practices can build relationships and resolve conflicts effectively and efficiently without arresting or charging students. This enables students to have trust in staff and truly feel safe at school. When all of these resources are utilized properly, armed police officers do not need to be involved in our schools. Their presence can be entirely accounted for without perpetuating systemic racism. During my ongoing campaign for Howard County Student Member of the Board, I've expressed oppositions to SROs for many of the same reasons I've shared with you here today. There are a few students I've had civil, productive, and respectful disagreements with, both of us explaining our respective points of view, and I value that. There have also been a few students who have lashed out with anger and disrespect, but there have been dozens of students, the vast majority, who have expressed their gratitude to me for taking a stance on this issue. I understand that it's controversial and it's easy to get lost in all the arguments and all the data, but it's about protecting all of our students, not just a few, and it's about being firmly anti-racist. Task Force members, allow me to summarize. The SRO program is a racist institution. SROs facilitate the school-to-prison pipeline. SROs exist to enforce the law, not to protect students. SROs don't make schools safer, and students do not want and students do not need SROs in our schools. I urge you to recommend the continued absence of SROs from Howard County schools. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.